This is Nikki Collins.
Jordan Canada.
Essence Carson.
Liz Candace.
Imani Media Stafford.
And you're listening to WNBA Weekly.
What's up, WNBA fans? Welcome to another edition of WNBA Weekly. My name is Kyle Haywood, and joining me tonight is one of my all-time favorite people on the entire planet, Logan Jones. What's up, dude?
Dude, all-time
favorite people. All-time.
I'm in
How you been, man?
I'm doing so good. I'm in a good mood. We did some pre-record just now for a couple minutes and talked about the NBA. And that almost ruined it, but
we were in such a good mood. We started talking to NBA, and it's like,
our teams are super disrespected. All right,
and
let's
then
get on mic.
Yeah, all of a sudden it was like, let's talk about the WNBA and get feeling better about our lives.
No, things are great. It is peak summer season, and I burn easy, and I know you've got stories to tell about that as well.
Yeah.
But I love
as people on
this
camera
time
people on YouTube might be able to see. I may have like some peeling on my face. I'm not positive.
Kyle sent pictures of his sunburn the day after he got it to our group, our WNBA chat this week, and I felt them when I looked at them. I was like, yep, been there.
Logan legit was like, do you need to go to the hospital?
I would be in a bathtub of aloe for a week.
That's about what I did. Yeah. It was cold compresses and aloe vera for like 3 days in a row.
Yeah, literally.
That's all it was.
Like doctor's orders. It's that time of year where people invite you to like go out on a boat and you're like, that would be super fun, but it's like a health risk for me.
Seriously, like people are like, let's go on a cruise, and I'm like, I'm gonna have to wear a long sleeve shirt the whole time.
Yeah, like I literally, my grandpa wears long sleeve flannels to the 4th of July parade because he's got this problem. He's 80 years old.
Oh, that's amazing. That's so good.
He's also a freaking legend for doing that, by the
way. Yeah, nothing but respect. Well, Logan, but before we hop in and actually chat about our main topic, which we're going to get to a little bit later, let's go ahead and run through what we like to call the triple W.
1, 2, 3.
And the winner of the Most Valuable Player Award is...
You are the one!
The way I see it, you owe Tina an apology.
Watch me.
All right, as you know, our regular listeners, we give away 3 awards each and every week. We give away an MVP, a Rookie of the Week, and a Play of the Week. And that's why it's the triple W, the week that was. So... let's go ahead and pop over. We've got your MVP right now.
How's it going, WNBA fans? Steve Schwartzman here, and a happy Prime Day to you, because apparently that's a big deal now, I guess. That's your thing. Cool. Anywho, let's jump right into things. The MVP for this week is the true star of Space Jam 2, Nneka Ogwumike, over 3 games last week, dropping 18 points a game, 10 rebounds, double-double for all you in-and-out fans, 3.7 steals on 42% shooting. This includes, with a 2-1 record last week, a victory over, at the time, the top-seeded Washington Mystics, who are now starting to look human, due in part to their performance against the Sparks, who played great defense and had very balanced scoring and great performances out of players like Nneka Ogwumike. Nneka starting to look very much like the 2016 Nneka Ogwumike. A lot of people have been waiting for since that MVP bid. A lot to be excited about, of course, on that end. Obviously, we're rolling into the All-Star break soon. She'll be on that roster as well, so definitely a big time to be an Ogwumike sister, and especially for Nneka, this week's MVP.
Perfect. Thanks a ton. Let's hop right back into things. Rookie of the Week. Let's do it.
Thanks, Kyle. This is Jason Snow, the beard behind the show, and I have your Rookie of the Week. This week's rookie is Arike Ogunbowale, putting up some solid numbers, averaging 19 points per game over that 3-game stretch. Dallas unfortunately lost 2 of those games, But in those losses against Seattle, she put up 23 points. Against Chicago, she put up 20 points. Not bad numbers at all. Big scoring, really helping Dallas out. Hopefully Dallas can figure out how to use her in conjunction with the rest of the team so that they can start putting some wins together. But for now, Arike, wonderful performance. Congratulations. You're the Rookie of the Week.
Perfect. Logan, you've got our Rookie of the Week. Or not Rookie of the Week. We just did Rookie of the Week. You've got our Play of the Week. You got our Play of the Week this week. I'm stoked to hear what you have to say about this one. Let's hear it.
Yeah, I sure don't have Rookie of the Week. I've got a totally different highlight in front of me. This week's Play of the Week was super fun, but also difficult to decide for reasons that will become clear shortly. I'm going with the 53-35 score at almost halftime, 0.4 seconds away from halftime, to be specific, in the Sky Liberty game, in which Gabby Williams fielded an inbounds pass in the middle of the key. And like, you ever play that game, that 21? You ever play pickup ball and like play 21, where if you get like the put back, you erase your opponent's score down to 0? It's one of those situations to end the half to put the Sky up by 20, and it's spectacular. And the highlight itself is great. The fact that it looks like it's a drawn-up play is great. Everyone's reaction. You have to watch it like 5 times to watch.
Oh yeah,
every
you gotta
Sky
watch
player's
Vandersloot and Dolson. Dolson at the top of the key is amazing.
The context of this is even better because in the first quarter, the way that quarter ended was a Kia Nurse put back off of a 3-pointer that she grabbed the rebound of and just swatted into the basket. And that was a strong contender for Play of the Week.
I saw that play. I saw the Nurse play happen, and I was like, dude, that's Play of the Week. And then the end of the second quarter happened with Gabby Williams, and I'm like, maybe it wasn't. This is.
The best things in sports are when little mini games start appearing in the game that you're watching. Like when teams start going back and forth, like, oh, you hit a 3, I'll hit a 3, and then you hit another 3, and then I'll get a dunk, you get a dunk. Like, I like that stuff because it's the competitive nature of everyone that's on the court is like, I know that this isn't really the point, but we have a point to prove. And this was such a well drawn up play. It was expertly executed. All the fans, you could tell, like, jumped out of their seats when they saw it. Love calling it Play of the Week. I'm sporting my Sky gear.
Yeah, you are sporting some Sky gear. Repping your Play of the Week. I like it.
Super biased now, but...
All right. Thanks, everybody. That was the Triple W, and that was the week that was. Logan, let's hop into our main topic for today. Now, Steve kind of gave a teaser into this last week as he was talking about kind of some of the early release voting and whatnot for the different All-Stars coming for the WNBA. So that being the case, we now officially have the starters and the reserves for the 2019 WNBA All-Star Game. And we're going to break them down. We're going to look at every single one of these. And I'm super pumped because I know you've got takes. I've got a lot of takes. And let's do this thing. So we've tweeted out these lists. If you haven't like seen these lists at all, it's super easy to find. You can either hop on WNBA.com, go follow our Twitter at WNBA Weekly, find us on Facebook, WNBA Weekly there, and we'll have them posted. But so if you haven't seen this full list, make sure that you check that out. There's a lot of really, really deserving players that are making the cut this season. But Logan, I just from the very top, I want to take a second and just have you like give me your initial thoughts. Like is there anybody that you're like, I'm not sure if they should have made it, or like, oh man, they were bubble, I'm glad they got in. What are your thoughts on this announcement?
Of the reserves, and this is rare for me, so this is an exciting thing to say, I'm fine with it. It's actually a great list. I thought the starters list suffered from popularity contest a little bit, and for obvious reasons. I mean, we are all really big fans of a lot of the players on the starters list, but some of them didn't play as much this season, and so you want to see players that are actually out there playing. But I'm excited to see a lot of the reserves. I mean, first of all, seeing Allie Quigley and Courtney Vandersloot get in. This is a Sky heavy episode for me suddenly. I didn't intend for that to be the case.
Well, yeah, there's three members of the Sky
Diamond DeShields
in the reserves. Yeah,
Allie Quigley's in, Courtney Vandersloot is in, And I think that was going to be a discussion, is if they didn't all three get in, what I would be talking to you about right now is like, how, which one of those do you cut for the sake of, you can't put in all three, but they did put in all three. And I think it's deserved. There's expected, I feel like this is where they backfilled a lot of like the players that you would expected to be on that didn't get voted in initially. So like the Lynx contributed Sylvia Fowles and Odyssey Sims. Those were obvious. Like if they hadn't been starters, you could kind of bank on them being reserves. I think a lot has to do with how teams are doing this year, which seems obvious, but actually says a lot. The Aces have 3 starters.
Yes.
3 all-star starters. The Sparks,
and they're the number 1 team right now.
Yeah, the Sparks and the Sparks are split. The Sun, the players are split. The Sky are all in the reserves.
Fever have 2 in this season, which is good for them.
The Fever, and they're both reserves. The only teams to contribute starters are basically teams at the top of their class, and then Kia Nurse from the Liberty.
Kia Nurse, yeah.
Like, good,
she's like
good
the
for
outlier.
her.
Yeah.
But yeah, everybody else is basically in contending status for a championship this year. So
yeah, absolutely.
That's an interesting divide in the 2 sets.
Now, from what I can tell, we've got 2 teams that I can see. I think there's only 2 teams not represented in this list at all, and that's the Dream and the Wings. With neither one of them having anybody selected to the All-Star game. Takes on that at all, Logan? I mean,
yeah, sure. You brought something up before the show, which is that right now the 9 seed, which is the New York Liberty, the first team out of the playoffs, is 4.5 games back of the lead in the WNBA, like the lead.
Yeah.
The Dallas Wings and Atlanta Dream are both at 5-11, which means they're each 6 games back, which still isn't that many games.
It's really not that far.
So
yeah.
My take is, if Dallas and Atlanta, if they had a legitimate all-star, I think they would easily be in the mix, because it's like right now the shuffle from 1 through 9 is so tight that I think falling to the bottom of that is basically like you don't have that all-star player, or at least no one playing like an all-star this year, because if you did, you'd be with the Sparks and the Storm and the Sky, and you'd be on the fringe of being in the postseason.
Which, ironically, Atlanta last year, Tiffany Hayes missed the cut last season, right? Mm-hmm. And then by the end of season, we were talking about her like she was probably 3rd as far as, or she might have been 4th as far as like MVP votes, right? Like she was like legit, came on really strong late. Obviously, they don't have McCautry's not playing right now. So they've got 2 right there that really probably could be making the cut. I really wanted to see Kayla Thornton like squeak in for the Wings. I really did. I thought that she would be she'd be someone who I think could really do like has deserved it, to see where she's come from. She's averaging 11 points per game, which isn't like, her stats aren't great, so I get it. But compared to like where she was and where she is now, like I love what I'm seeing from Kayla Thornton. She's a serious force to be reckoned with. But I mean, their top 3 players right now, as far as points, are Ogunbowale, who's a rookie who's looking good, but still rookie campaign, right? Kayla Thornton, and then Alicia Gray. And I'm okay if any of the 3 of them made it and kicked out somebody else. Like, I mean, who you're looking at some of these reserves. If they kick out a Courtney Vandersloot or Christy Tolliver or a Candace Dupree or Sylvia Fowles, like, then it's like, so I get it. I get the Wings. I get the Wings a bit, but the Dream, it does hurt to see the Dream kind of getting the shaft after finishing in second place last season, but this season has just been garbage for Atlanta so far.
And
which
remember,
is really hard.
And I saw this comment on Twitter, essentially saying, "Didn't the season just start? Why is the WNBA voting on all-star players?" And it seemed to come from someone that wasn't really following the league very much, but they kind of like, I think they meant it as kind of a derogatory remark about the league, but what they tapped into is actually something that's absolutely true, which is we don't get a lot of time to evaluate players. This is basically like awarding the Heisman to the first, month MVP in college.
It's like, oh, you played 5 games, let's award the Heisman.
Right.
Or the All-American team.
Which, by the way, is kind of what they do anyway. But that's that's essentially we get 3 months of a season, and the All-Star break has to come somewhere near the midway point. So you have players that are going to come back from injury late in the season that in a regular length, like in an NBA 82 game season, we haven't even scratched the surface yet of what people are capable of. Maybe people are just in slumps right now. We don't know. There's a scenario, a non-0% chance that Dallas and the Dream figure things out, and some other team suffers some catastrophic injury or goes on a slump, and both of those teams are in the playoffs all of a sudden.
Yeah, and I could easily see both the Dream and we're actually going to get into a little bit about the Dream a little bit later on in the episode more specifically, but I really could see the Dream, like, they've won 3 of their last 5. And like, if they kind of start turning things around, like, they easily could catch. They're only 2.5 games out of playoff contention right now.
Yeah.
So it's not like it's not out of the realm of possibility that they easily go on a little streak and jump up and snag even a decent seed in the playoffs. So it is really weird to have an All-Star game, quote unquote, this early because of the amount of games, but you can't push it later because then you're in a playoff push, right? Then teams are kind of pushing for the playoffs, and you don't want to risk injury heading into the playoff. It's not ideal. So I get it. But it is kind of hard, because it's like awarding All-Star games for, hey, you came out a little bit hot and now you're an All-Star for the season. But if you get hot later, like Tiffany Hayes did last season, Tiffany Hayes came on and just was on a tear for the whole second half of the season. Basically, after the All-Star game is when she just went off. And well deserved, probably had a top 4 season of anybody in the league last year, and wasn't in the All-Star game because of just how short the season is, unfortunately.
Yeah.
I want to hit just a couple more of these. So is there any, I want to ask you, Logan, as far as starters go, so I'm just going to run through real quick. I'm just going to read some names off, not in any particular order, just as they are listed in like the report here. Liz Cambage, Chelsea Gray, Brittany Griner, Elena Deladon, Natasha Howard, Jonquel Jones, Jewel Lloyd, Kayla McBride, Kia Nurse, and Asia Wilson. Okay, that's your starters. That's 10 starters right there. From what we've seen, it looks like it's going to be Elena Deladon and Asia Wilson as the captains, respectively, first and second captain. So that'll be interesting. Reserves: Dewana Bonner, Tina Charles, Diamond DeShields, Candice Dupree, Sylvia Fowles, Neko Gumake, Allie Quigley, Odyssey Sims, Alyssa Thomas, Christy Tulliver, Courtney Vandersloot, and Erica Wheeler. If I was going to make you take 2 starters and replace it with 2 of the reserves, who are you replacing, Logan?
I would take Kia Nurse off the start. None of this is going to be easy. I like I said, I think a lot of this is actually correct. But I could take Kia Nurse. Gosh, everybody else really deserves to be there. Maybe.
That's why I had said 2, because I thought 1 would be too easy.
Maybe Kayla McBride, just because having 3 All-Stars from the Aces feels a lot more like, I know this was media and fans and players, but it feels like just the momentum to start the season and the fact that Vegas is the new team. There's a lot of fan excitement around them. I think maybe they got a bump, and credit to them for riding that momentum. But
totally,
I think that's a case where, she's deserving of the starting spot, but like putting her on the reserves isn't like disrespectful. It's just like, hey, this is the game, and I can't. So Kia Nurse and Kayla McBride, you could take out and maybe put in, let's see, you're stumping me with this one. I think Courtney Vandersloot has had a starter caliber year. We talked before the show a little bit. What is she averaging assist wise right now, Kyle?
8.2 per game.
And how long are the quarters in the WNBA?
Not as long as the NBA.
No. And how many more possessions, how many more shots are in the NBA? Tons.
Yeah.
She's
like
it's unreal.
The WNBA plays 80% of an NBA game.
Right.
So if you add another 20%, right, or an additional for, I guess the conversion would be if you took Vandersloot's numbers and times them by 0.25.
Right.
Is what you'd get for NBA minutes.
To average over 8 assists a game in a game where you can win shooting 34% from the floor and the quarters are 2 minutes shorter and there's fewer possessions. Like all of the stats, they don't come with an asterisk. If anything, they just come with, you need to understand the greater context to understand, numbers that you're used to looking at for NBA stars are different in this league. It's like a year ago when Cam Bage was averaging like 3 blocks a game. It's like, that's ridiculous. So that, to me, you could easily put Vandersloot in the starting lineup. I think you could also, and this is going to be weird, but I think you could also put Candace Dupree.
Okay.
And I get like probably Tina Charles is probably what I should have said there, but I think she just suffers from being on the Fever. I think Candace Dupree on 10 other teams this season is an all-star starter. So just the fact that the Fever, what are they right now? They're at 6-12.
Yeah, they're third to last, I think.
They're
in
how
the 10th
easily
seed.
could they be, at 500 at 9-9? Just because of how many close games they've lost.
7, as we tweeted out, 7 games by 6 points or less in the last month and a half.
Yeah, if they close out half of those, I think she might be in that conversation of being an all-star starter. She's having a great year.
Interesting. I don't hate your picks. I have different takes.
I imagine
I don't hate your picks.
I want to hear them. I want to hear them.
I also, again, there's no disrespect to Kia Nurse. She's actually having a very good season. I was screaming at the Liberty all last year for underutilizing her because I thought that Kia Nurse needed to be on the floor and getting more minutes, and she wasn't. And now she is, and look at what she's doing. She's having a phenomenal year. Totally. I don't think she's a starter. I'm switching her out, and she's a guard, so I'm going to take another guard from the reserves. I'm going to switch her out with Christy Tolliver. I think Christy Tolliver is starter worthy, and is kind of. I know Deladon gets a ton of the credit for the Mystics, but I really think Christy Tolliver is kind of the glue for that whole team. I think she's kind of the engine that makes it run. And this next one's going to surprise you. I'm actually going to drop Brittany Griner from the starters.
Okay.
And replace her with DeWanna Bonner. I think
from the same team.
From the same team. I'm just saying if you're going front court from the Mercury, I'm taking Bonner every time. Bonner is having a phenomenal season that nobody's talking about. Everybody, it seems like everybody with the Mercury is just twiddling their thumbs till Taurasi comes back. Nobody was really wanting to talk about the Mercury. Everybody's like, oh yeah, well, and granted they weren't doing so hot, but Bonner is having a phenomenal season and is getting zero help from a lot of her team. Griner is Griner. She's gonna be a huge. She's one of the 5 players that if you said, hey, name a WNBA player to random people on the street, she's probably getting mentioned, right? Mm-hmm. Because a lot of that carries over from her impressive, years at Baylor and whatnot. But she's not having nearly the season that Bonner's having, and so I would switch. I think the Mercury. I think DeWanna Bonner is legit an outside shot at an MVP season this year. If she can be playing at her peak through the end of the season, I don't see any reason why she's not an MVP candidate right now. Mm-hmm. And Brittany Griner, I've just been slightly unimpressed with at times during the season, so that's why I'm switching those two.
Yeah. Okay. I could see that.
Which would be weird. It felt weird, name recognition wise. It's Brittany Griner, not a starter. It's well, what are you talking about, right? But when I really looked at this list, that's the one that's the switch I would have made. Let's
talk about the MVP discussion for just really quickly.
Okay.
Because you mentioned something earlier that really jumped out at me, which is setting up Elena Deladon, who's now a 6-time All-Star. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah, 6-time All-Star, leader of the Mystics, who everyone assumed would be a top 1 or 2 team this year. Basically, inevitably in the MVP discussion every season, and deservedly so. And who is her counterpart captain this year? But
Asia
sophomore
Wilson.
seasoned Asia Wilson. and I think she deserves every bit of it. And I think there was someone that even anticipated her being an MVP this year in our predictions show. And that person was me. And but I think it's interesting that the league is even willing to basically set them at opposing ends and say it's you versus you.
All right, go for it.
Elena Deladon, the face, there's an 11-foot tall poster of her in every Foot Locker. She's the face of the league, versus Asia Wilson, who is the leader of this new, young, exciting team in Vegas that's bringing in a lot of new fans to the sport.
And is the home team this year.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Which is obviously key. Like, I get that that's part of, you want to have, I don't know. It's like having someone from the home team in the home run derby every year. Like, you got to do it. But I just think that's significant. The fact that she is a 2nd-time All-Star in 2 years, which is to me is significant. Compared, and this isn't putting Natasha Howard down by any means, but compare that to Natasha Howard being in the league for 5 years. This is her first year on an All-Star roster. Probably should be her second.
Yes,
and we know that, but
should be her second. Yeah.
But yeah, seeing. Sometimes it takes great talent like Howard, a couple years to finally make the squad. Asia Wilson's, 2 for 2. So I feel like that's something. I love seeing all the people that are on here for the first time and how many years they've been in the league. I think it's awesome.
Yeah, there's a lot of first-time appearances. Well, I mean, you got Diamond DeShields, who is, again, another sophomore, which is awesome. If you would have told me that if you were to had me pick a second, sophomore to make it outside of Asia Wilson, I would have said Ariel Atkins. And yet it wasn't Atkins. It's DeShields and Kia Nurse that are making an appearance.
Yeah.
I didn't, I would have put Atkins above those two as far as anticipation, but both of them are making it, and both deservedly so. But at the start of the season, I would have said Atkins, but here we are with Nurse and DeShields, both having some kind of breakout seasons of their own. So,
We've pretty thoroughly kind of dressed this down, but there's one more observation. Well, 2 more observations I want to make really quick. One is our girl Jewel Lloyd was the top vote getter from fans, and I feel like we at least get to play a role in that because we all love Gem. And it was cool to see her be the top vote getter from fans and get it in a starting spot. Absolutely deserved. She's had a great season. Her and Natasha Howard are the reason the Storm are still contenders. The other thing is, there was a note. It was Anila on Twitter mentioned that he would basically agree with the teams as they currently stand, but Nafisa Collier missing is a little bit of like a snub. What are your thoughts on that? I know my thoughts on that.
It's really hard. I don't love rookies getting into All-Star games unless they've been really significantly the best, right? Asia Wilson made sense last year. But yeah, you didn't have the year before, you didn't have, Alicia Gray or, you didn't have that was kind of a rookie class that, kind of Brittany Sykes, Alicia Gray, Kelsey Plum, it was kind of a really slow start for a lot of that incoming rookie class that season. Last year, Asia Wilson makes sense. This year, we're seeing, Nafisa and Agumba Wale are both really playing significant minutes and scoring well for their teams. I don't know if either of them break into the echelon of making an all-star for me this year. I would love to see a rookie make it, but I feel like I kind of am hesitant to do that unless they're it's obvious they're the best player on the court just about any time they step out there, which is what Asia did last year. So I'm okay with it. Because as I look, I don't know who I would let's say Nafisa, right? It'd be really hard to try and pick somebody to replace, right?
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
Because you look through and, it's are you going to take out Bonner, Charles, Dupree, Fowles, Agumake, or Alyssa Thomas? Ooh, that's tough, right? Like, who do you take out to put Collier in? Is kind of where I'm coming from. But I want to hear your thoughts on this.
They echo yours. I like the teams as presently constituted. I think there's a great mix of 6 and 7 time repeat All-Star candidates, and then several 1, 2, 3s. In fact, if you have it in front of you right now, don't look at it. Like, shield it with something really quick.
Okay.
Where did Allie Quigley go to school, and how many years has she been in the league?
I know this one, actually. I don't know exactly how many years. I know she went to DePaul. How many years has she been in the league? 6. 6?
10.
What? Oh yeah,
10
she has
years.
She has been in a lot longer than 6. What would I? Yeah, that makes
I
sense.
would have guessed 5 or 6. Maybe 6 or 7. I had no idea. 3-time All-Star this year. 10 years.
Jeez, that's crazy.
Yeah. Which means, like, it has the birthdays here, and I'm quickly doing math, and I'm like, wait a second.
who's like significantly older than you, and who's significantly younger than you?
Yeah. NECA is 2 years older than me. She's a 6-time All-Star. So
yeah, right.
I got a lot of catching up to do in my
makes you feel really good about
personal
yourself.
accomplishments, but cool. Yeah, I thought they did a great job. Fans, media, players alike. I really liked that everyone was basically on the same page. It was interesting. If you want to get super nerdy with the numbers, it was actually really interesting to see the breakdown of where players ranked across those 3 categories.
Yeah, I had that pulled up on my phone. So
if you want to, I don't have it pulled up in front of me, but I know there was some massive discrepancies here and there. Courtney Vandersloot was one of them that I thought was super interesting.
Vandersloot was interesting because she was ranked 8th by the fans in guards, 4 by the media, and 15 among other players, which was really interesting to me. That other players had her all the way down to 15, but media had her up at 4. Let's see. McBuckets was another one that caught my eye because she was straight across the board. She was second place in both fan, media, and player rank. Another one that caught my eye was Liz Cambage, number 3 in fan votes. The players have Cambage all the way down at 11.
Wow,
which is odd. Am I right? Like,
I feel like there's probably not many votes between 3 and 11. Like, it's probably not like hundreds and hundreds of people pouring in. So
well, I mean, like 3 is the fan vote, right? And then but you're talking about player votes.
But the players in media. What do you think? It's probably like 50 people.
Yeah, I don't know.
I wish I knew.
Do
what
they
that
do
pool
everyone
was,
in the league? I don't know.
But so the difference might not be as great as we think it is. But I do feel like that's a little bit players. I think players like to put guys in their place sometimes when they feel like they're overrated. You see it in baseball every year. They do this poll. They're like, who's the most overrated player in baseball? And it's always just the player who got the most recent massive offseason contract. So this year, everyone was like, Bryce Harper's the most overrated player in baseball.
Right. Well, and everybody's talking about Liz Cambage this last season. And so they're like, maybe that rubbed the players the wrong way.
Yeah,
but then you see it with Vandersloot too.
Yeah, I think there's
maybe people are saying that Vandersloot's overrated.
Maybe
could be.
I think there's a shade of jealousy there when it comes to player voting.
There'd have to be.
Every year the media in the NBA is like, oh, this year Russell Westbrook is doing these amazing things, and then the NBA players are divided between like, yeah, he's great, and like,
we don't like him,
man. Like, he's just a stat chaser. So like, there's always going to be some disinterest in furthering the players that like fans are enamored with,
right?
To kind of to put them in their place a little bit. So I don't know. I wonder if that's something that happened there.
Well, Logan, let's roll into our last bit of the show here for today. Let's go ahead and take a look at our game of the week.
Sweet.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is the main event of the evening. And now,
Logan, this week we finally, for the first time, have an Atlanta Dream game for our game of the week, and I love it. I got to pick it this week. We've got the Dream at the Sky. It's gonna be a quick one. It's earlier on in the week, and so as you're listening to this, it might be like tomorrow or even maybe later today if you're listening to this on Wednesday. It's Wednesday, July 17th.
It's an afternoon game.
It's at noon Eastern time. Okay, so this is like 10 o'clock if you're where we live, right?
You gotta be
Mountain
on top
time,
of things.
You gotta wake up and watch the game. So it's that's the reason I was hesitant to do it, because I was like, oh, I like that game a lot, but like it's on a Wednesday at noon. I was like, can we make that our game of the week? But I'm sticking to it, and I'll tell you why. Atlanta has won 3 of their last 5. Chicago was on this skid where they'd lost several, but now they're looking like they might be kind of starting to figure things out. Picking up that 10-point victory over the Wings. So I want to see what these two teams have to do. I do think Atlanta has a ton of potential. The Sky, I also think have a ton of potential, but they're both, I think, living slightly below their potential right now. And I think that this is a game. This is the first time these two teams have matched up all season. This is a matchup that I think really, if someone were to sweep this series, whether the Dream or the Sky, that's a huge boost when it comes to playoff positioning and who's going to make the cut there. So that was part of the reason why I wanted to take a look at this. Logan, what are your initial thoughts with the Dream and the Sky?
I think it's going to be a pretty good game, actually. I don't think it's going to be super lopsided. We're about a week away from Vegas and the All-Star break, which is where you might see some teams that are on the fringe. Like right now, Chicago's ranked 7. They're just hovering above 500. It's easy to lose sight of, this is a trap game, essentially. I hate using that phrase because it gets overused, but Atlanta has battled some teams this year. And lost close games. And as we've said, this, when the entire league is within 6 games of each other, one game means a lot. There's a lot of separation. So I will say I believe it's in Chicago, and for that reason, I'm going to spoil my pick a little bit, but I think the Dream are going to be facing really uphill battle still. But I do think that Chicago can't come in and sleep on these guys. And that's, I hate how cliche that sounds, but this is the one time a year where that really happens, because otherwise it's just a dead sprint to the postseason. Right.
I got to ask you, Logan, give me an official score prediction on this one.
Shoot. Chicago's been flying pretty high lately. They scored 89. When was that? Against Dallas. I guess Dallas isn't that great defensively, but I think it's going to be a higher scoring game. Maybe something in like the 85 to 75 range. Is that boring? The game of the week, I always want to create a scenario where it's like a must-watch scenario. This could easily be one where maybe the Dream come out just with their hair on fire in the first half, and it's tied at halftime, and then Chicago puts them away in the second half. I could see that game script being a very likely thing to follow. Chicago's just a better team. I really like the way that all of their all-star players, frankly, are playing together right now. I also really like Lavender. I don't think we've
Gentle
talked
Lavender,
about,
her coming back was, I really like. She's doing a lot with. She's really protecting the boards well, which is something that Chicago definitely needs.
Yeah. If they're rebounding well and Vandersloot is assisting at the rate that she's been, Diamond Shields just went for 26 in that Dallas game. The game before that, they played the Liberty, another not great team, but they scored 99. They beat them by 16. So they've been on a good tear. That's what worries me. I think Chicago's a well-coached team, and when you look at coaches that know what they're doing, you kind of avoid a lot of these problems. But with teams that are a little bit more undisciplined, sometimes when things get good, you get relaxed, and when you play a team like Dallas, you get relaxed, and when you play at home, you get relaxed. And so those are all reasons that they could just smoke them, but there's risk there still, because everything is, you can see the All-Star break is we're winding down. We're off of 2, big victories where we didn't really have any, crunch time minutes for anybody in the second half because it was well in hand. And the Dream, like I said, they're going to battle. They're 1-5 on the road. You can look at that one of two ways. They either suck on the road or they're due. Just depending on how superstitious you want to be.
I love it. Okay, so you went 85-75 for Chicago, right?
Yeah.
Logan, I have a dream.
Don't do it. Don't go down this road.
I'm telling you right now. I think the Atlanta Dream are starting to figure it out. Look at their last 5 games. Okay, if you take a look at Atlanta's last 5 games. Hold on, I had it here. There it is. Okay. So their last 5 games, like I mentioned, they've won 3 of their last 5, right? Which prior to that, it was rough. Okay, I think let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4. They'd only won 1 out of 10. The 10 games prior to their last 5, they had a stretch where they went 1-9. Okay, rough. Their last 5 games, they've won 3 of them, and the losses are close. 2-point loss to the Mercury. Okay. And that was in Phoenix. Then they have a home game that they lost to the Sparks by 5 that was an overtime game. So Phoenix and the Sparks, which have tons of talent, both these, which they may have, they've underperformed, but they have a lot of talent. And so the Dream, the last 5 games are looking good, and I feel like they're going to start figuring it out. I have a ton of faith in Nikki Collin, and I think that she's going to really kind of start to, she's taking her lumps a little early on in the season. She's really starting to figure it out. I think they're going to start to make a playoff push. Okay, they were number 2 in the league last year, and I don't think that was like a fluke. I do think they're that good. They have just been down, and because of the shortened season, it seems a lot larger than it really is. Okay, if you expanded this out to like an 80-game season, they have tons of time to make it up, and I think that's where they're at. I think the Atlanta Dream take this game, but it's a lower scoring affair. I got them 71-64. Let's go ahead.
We're just going in complete different directions.
We're going way different.
Good. One of us will be right.
I see this game very differently than you. I love the Chicago Sky. I personally have like an affinity because my daughter is a huge Sky and Vandersloot fan, right? So like it kills me to say this a little bit, but I think the Dream are getting it figured out, and I think they're due. I think they're ready to go. And I think that they're going to use some of the fuel of, hey, we got snubbed. We didn't have a single player make the All-Star. And, the Sky got 3. Like, I feel like Atlanta's got a chip on their shoulder. They're ready to come in and prove some people wrong. And it's time. It's time for it. So, Whoopi, let's throw it over to you, our WNBA Weekly Power Index. Whoopi, what's your prediction for this game?
Kyle, I appreciate your optimism. But no, just no, the Sky are going to pull out an 83-67 victory over the Dream. I won't shut the door completely, but I will say that the Dream only have an 8.4% chance of pulling the upset.
Whoopi is always much smarter than Logan and I, so take what she has to say to the bank. Probably go bet on Vegas a lot of money, whatever she said. And when you lose because I told you to do that, don't come after me. Logan, let's go ahead and wrap this up. Logan, why don't you tell everybody where they can find us online if they want to connect with us outside of just listening?
Absolutely. Please come find us across all social media, but particularly on Twitter at WNBA Weekly. We love interacting with everybody. We have an ongoing conversation with the latest and greatest in women's basketball, and occasionally just other topics like U.S. women's national team obviously came up recently. There were also some other significant sporting events this past week if you're really into tennis, things of that nature. So we basically have an ongoing discussion happening around all those topics anyway. But particularly if you've listened to the show or you like the show or you have critiques about the show, please reach out, be a part of that conversation. We're going to Vegas next week for the All-Star break. We want people to be able to follow that journey as that unfolds. At WNBA Weekly for all of your, all of your women's basketball needs.
Women's basketball tweets. There you go. Thanks, Logan. We just want to give a quick shout out to all of you who are listening in. If you're watching on YouTube, thank you so much. Hit subscribe and click that little notification bell. That way you'll know as soon as a new episode goes up, or if we're going to go live, which wait till Vegas. We're going to be going live from Vegas, almost for sure. We're taking a bunch of equipment with us so that we can do that. Also, another thing that we want to mention is if you're listening on Stitcher or any of your pod grabbers, or especially iTunes, hit that subscribe button there as well. If you're listening on iTunes, we appreciate 5-star reviews. If you go ahead and click 5 stars, if you have the time, go ahead and write us a little review with that 5-star review, and we will read it out loud on mic the next episode. So, but really, just thank all of you. We wouldn't be we would be doing this if nobody listened to us, because we love it so much. But it's way more fun when we have all of you listening to us. So thank you guys for tuning in this week. For WNBA Weekly, I'm Kyle Haywood.
I'm Logan Jones.
And we got you next time.